Chapter 6, wherein is described how it is the three theological virtues that perfect the three faculties of the soul, and how the said virtues produce emptiness and darkness within them. Having now to endeavor to show how the three faculties of the soul, understanding, memory, and will, are brought into this spiritual night, which is the means to divine union, it is necessary first of all to explain in this chapter how the three theological virtues, faith, hope, and charity, which have respect to the three faculties aforesaid as their proper supernatural objects, and by means whereof the soul is united with God according to its faculties, produce the same emptiness and darkness, each one in its own faculty. Faith in the understanding, hope in the memory, and charity in the will. And afterwards we shall go on to describe how the understanding is perfected in the darkness of faith, and the memory in the emptiness of hope, and likewise how the will must be buried by withdrawing and detaching every affection, so that the soul may journey to God. This done, it will be clearly seen how necessary it is for the soul, if it is to walk securely on this spiritual road, to travel through this dark night, leaning upon these three virtues, which empty it of all things, and make it dark with respect to them. For as we have said, the soul is not united with God in this life through understanding, nor through enjoyment, nor through the imagination, nor through any sense whatsoever, but only through faith, according to the understanding, and through hope, according to the memory, and through love, according to the will. These three virtues, as we have said, all cause emptiness in the faculties. Faith in the understanding causes an emptiness and darkness with respect to understanding. Hope in the memory causes emptiness of all possessions. And charity causes emptiness in the will and detachment from all affection, and from rejoicing in all that is not God. For as we see, faith tells us what cannot be understood with the understanding. Wherefore St. Paul spoke of it ad Hebraeos after this manner: Fides esperandarum substantia rerum, argumentum non apparentium. This we interpret as meaning that faith is the substance of things hoped for, and although the understanding may be firmly and certainly consenting to them, they are not things that are revealed to the understanding, since if they were revealed to it, there would be no faith. So faith, although it brings certainty to the understanding, brings it not clearness, but obscurity. Then, as to hope, there is no doubt but that it renders the memory empty and dark with respect both to things below and things above. For hope always relates to that which is not possessed. For if it were possessed, there would be no hope. Wherefore St. Paul says ad Romanos, Spes, quae videtur, non est spes, nam quod videt quis, quid sperat. That is to say, hope that is seen is not hope, for what a man sees, that is, what a man possesses, how does he hope for it? This virtue then also produces emptiness, for it has to do with that which is not possessed, and not with that is possessed. Similarly, charity causes emptiness in the will with respect to all things, since it obliges us to love God above them all, which cannot be unless we withdraw our affection from them in order to set it wholly upon God. Wherefore Christ says through St. Luke, Qui non renunciat omnibus quae possidet, non potest meos esse discipulus, which signifies, he that renounces not all that he possesses with the will cannot be my disciple. And thus all these three virtues set the soul in obscurity and emptiness with respect to all things. And here we must consider that parable which our Redeemer related in the 11th chapter of St. Luke, wherein he said that a friend had to go out at midnight in order to ask his friend for 3 loaves, the which loaves signify these 3 virtues. And he said that he asked for them at midnight in order to signify that the soul that is in darkness as to all things must acquire these 3 virtues according to its faculties, and must perfect itself in them in this night. In the 6th chapter of Isaiah we read that the 2 seraphim whom this prophet saw on either side of God had each 6 wings. With 2 they covered their feet, which signified the blinding and quenching of the affections of the will with respect to all things for the sake of God. And with 2 they covered their face, which signified the darkness of the understanding in the presence of God. And with the other 2 they flew. This is to signify the flight of hope to the things which are not possessed, when it is raised above all that it can possess, whether below or above, apart from God. To these 3 virtues, then, we have to lead the 3 faculties of the soul, informing each faculty by each one of them, and stripping it and setting it in darkness concerning all things, save only these 3 virtues. And this is the spiritual night, which just now we called active, for the soul does that which in it lies, in order to enter therein. And even as, in the night of sense, we described a method of voiding the faculties of sense of their sensible objects, with regard to the desire, so that the soul might go forth from the beginning of its course to the mean, which is faith. Even so, in this spiritual night, with the favor of God, we shall describe a method whereby the spiritual faculties are voided and purified of all that is not God, and are set in darkness concerning these 3 virtues, which, as we have said, are the means and preparation for the union of the soul with God. In this method is found all security against the crafts of the devil, and against the efficacy of self-love and its ramifications, which is wont most subtly to deceive and hinder spiritual persons on their road, when they know not how to become detached, and to govern themselves according to these 3 virtues. And thus they are never able to reach the substance and purity of spiritual good, nor do they journey by so straight and short a road as they might. And it must be noted that I am now speaking particularly to those who have begun to enter the state of contemplation, because as far as this concerns beginners, it must be described somewhat more amply, as we shall note in the 2nd book, God willing, when we treat of the properties of these beginners. End of chapter 6. End of chapter 5.